Hello and welcome to our lesson on like terms and exponents, a more advanced look. First, what are like terms? Like terms are terms, and it could be any mix of number, variable, and exponent, in which the variable and the exponent are exactly the same. That's the important part right there. So when we compare negative 4x cubed and 6x cubed, they're considered like terms because both have the variable x, and both are to the third power. They're both cubic. And it doesn't matter at all what the coefficients are doing. Right there, the negative 4 and the 6, that doesn't determine like terms. The variable and the exponent do. So let's take a look. Are 3.5z to the fifth and 4z to the negative fifth like terms? First of all, check out your variables. Are the variables the same? Yes. Are the exponents the same? No. You've got a 5 and a negative 5. So these are not like terms. Now take a look at the next one. Check out the variables first, x and y. Right there you can stop. You don't even have to worry about your exponents now. And it doesn't matter that the exponents are exactly the same because your variables x and y don't match. So these would be not like terms. Okay, let's take a look at these examples. We have negative 3x to the fifth and 12x to the fifth. First thing, check out your variable. They're both x's. So far, so good. Look at your exponents. You've got to the fifth and to the fifth. That means they are like terms. Remember, it doesn't matter what your coefficients are doing. The little 12 and the negative 3, they don't have to be the same. The only things that need to be the same are the variables and the exponents. Take a look at the next one. You've got a y and a y. Okay, so far so good. And then you've got an exponent of 5 and an exponent of 5. Since it all matches, these would be considered like terms. Okay. If we need to add and subtract like terms, again, both the variable and the exponent have to be exactly the same. We need them to match. Only add or subtract the coefficient, and do not change the variable or the exponent. Remember the little 4 there, tiny little number is your exponent. Your variable is your x. It could be y, it could be z, it could be q, whatever the alphabet letter is. And then the number that comes directly in front of the variable is called the coefficient. Okay, first of all, you have to check to see if they're like terms before you can add or subtract. Take a look at the variables. Yep, they're both x's. And now take a look at the exponents. They're both 6's. These are like terms, so we can actually take the coefficients now, which is negative 4, and add it to 1.2. So you're going to have negative 4, and you're going to add it to 1.2. You're going to get a negative number, and it's going to be negative 2.8. Now, you don't change your variable, you just recopy it, and you don't change your exponent. The variable and the exponent always stay the same whenever you're adding or subtracting. Take a look at the second one. You have variable y and a variable y. So far, so good. You have an exponent of 7. This means that they're both like terms. So you can take your coefficient of 1/4 and subtract it from 1/2. I know everybody hates fractions, so if you can change those to decimals, go ahead and do it. In this case, you can. 1/4 is 0.25. It's a quarter. And you're subtracting 1/2, which is 0.5. That ends up being a negative number, and it's negative 0.25. And then just recopy your variable and your exponent. Okay, next page. You've got 3 different terms. They all have to be like terms if you're going to add or subtract them. For this one, you've got a z and a z, okay, and a z, all 3 of them. Now you've got to the 31st, to the 31st, and to the 31st. That means that you can take the 20, take away 6, take away another 20. If you have 20 and you take away 20, that's 0. So all you're left with is this negative 6. And then remember, you just recopy your variable and your exponent. Take a look at the next one. You've got G, G, and G. And this one is to the 9th, this one is to the 9th, and this one is to the 8th. So that means that you can only add or subtract the like terms, which are those two. So you've got 51 minus 63. You're actually doing that, right? But we're going to switch it around so we can see. This is going to be a negative answer. You're going to get a negative 12. So your answer is going to end up being negative 12 G to the 9th. But you still have the 8th. So we're going to have to include this guy. So let's go ahead and put him back in there. So we know that we're going to have negative 12 G to the 9th. And then we still have this guy right here. And we're going to add him as 14 G to the 8th. We cannot add or subtract these two right here because they're not like terms. But we could completely add or subtract these guys right here because they were like terms. So you only add or subtract your like terms, and then for any guys that aren't like terms, they just get rewritten. Let's take a look at another one. Remember, we have to make sure that they are like terms before we can add or subtract. So take a look. We have variables q, and then we have an exponent of 0.7 and 7.7. They're not like terms. So what you would write as an answer is just the problem all over again. 4q to the 0.7 minus 6q to the 7.7. That's as far as you can go. Since they're not like terms, you can't add or subtract them, so just rewrite it, and that's your final answer. Now let's take a look at the next one. You have 3.5 x to the 9th and negative 4x to the 9th. I see x's for both variables, and I see our exponents are 9s. We're good, we have like terms. So we can look at 3.5, and we're adding a negative 4, which really means you're going to take 3.5 and you're going to subtract 4. So if you do that, you're going to end up with a negative number, and it's negative 0.5, and then remember, you're going to recopy your variable and your exponent. They don't change when you add or subtract. The only thing that changes is that coefficient. Now let's take a look at the last one. Do you think we have like terms or no? We've got a y, and a y. Okay, so far so good. You've got to the 4th, to the 4th, and to the 3rd. This guy right here is not a like term. He's different, so we're not going to mess with him. But these two right here are like terms. So we can look at 1/2 minus 1/2. If you have a half and you take away a half, you got nothing. So you end up with 0 y to the 4th plus 1/2 y to the 3rd. And usually in algebra, if the answer has a coefficient of 0, you don't write it at all. So your final answer would be 1/2 y to the 3rd. Because that guy can't be added or subtracted to y to the 4th because it wasn't a like term. So this right here would be the final answer. Just as a quick review, having like terms means the variable and the exponent are exactly the same. The coefficient does not have to be the same. When you're adding or subtracting like terms, only add or subtract the coefficient. Do not change the variable or the exponent. And if you do not have like terms, you cannot add or subtract. You're just going to rewrite the entire problem and call it a day. And that's it for our lesson on like terms and exponents, a more advanced look.